Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of Between the Takes podcast. I'm your host, Anastasia, and I can now wait for you to join me on this journey to discover the behind the scenes people of the Newfoundland Labrador film industry. Today we have a very special guest, program coordinator at Polpo Film School, camera assistant, and someone who is just very dear to me, Allison Short. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be
Thank you
here.
so much for coming and for
Congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited. And thank you so much for being my first guest.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited when you asked me.
I would really like to start our episode by your introduction, your story. I obviously know some parts of it from our chats, and but I'm sure there's so much more. So let's rewind and take us back to where everything has started.
Wow. Okay. So, how I kind of got started in the business.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it was a long time ago, several decades ago. So I was actually working downtown here in St. John's and working in restaurants and bars, that kind of thing. And I knew some people in the industry,
Mhm.
mainly Mary Sexton,
Okay.
local producer Mary Sexton was a friend. And she mentioned to me several times, it's like, you should come work for me. You obviously thrive in high stress situations, working in restaurants and kitchens and all that kind of stuff and bartending. It's kind of the same environment. It's fast paced and all that. So she
And the
kind of
industry was
recognized.
just starting back then, right? I
Yeah, I
guess.
mean, not so much just starting, but it was definitely different from what it is now. I mean, there's been a industry here in Newfoundland for, my gosh, 50 years. But, we're talking about 20 plus years ago. There was an industry, but it certainly wasn't thriving like it is now.
Right.
It was very seasonal. And yeah, so I basically was working at a restaurant and was kind of left one restaurant, was looking to start at a different one, and it was just kind of in between jobs. And my brother was actually in the business department or in the business program at Memorial University, and he was looking for a work term. And he was looking for a work term in accounting.
Okay.
And so he went in and he was working, he went down to interview with Mary for an accounting position. And of course, during this interview, she said, "Oh, hang on now. We're short." And he was like, "Yeah, I think you know my sister, Allison." And Mary literally was like, "What's her phone number?" And picked up, this is before pre-cell phones. And she literally picked up the phone and called me in my brother's interview during his interview. And she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, and she was like, "Come down for an interview this afternoon." I was like, "Okay." So I went down and I basically, yeah, went in and had an interview. She wanted me to kind of work in the office with her. But within about 30 minutes of chatting with her and Lynn Wilson, who was her production manager at the time, I had no office skills. So they were like, "Do you know how to use Excel? Do you know how to," at this point in my life at 20, I did not. And I was like, "No." And so they're like, "Never mind, you're going to go work on set." So instead of working in the office, they put me out on set. And back then, the series that we had going then was called Hatching, Matching, and Dispatching, which was an incredibly funny series that starred Mary Walsh and Joel Hines and so many other great people. It was Shawn Majunder's first
All of
kind
the
of
big
big show.
guys.
Yeah, so it was a really, really great series. And so, yeah, I kind of cut my teeth working on set on that. And then that series, so that summer was it was kind of the one of the busiest times in Newfoundland for film.
Mhm.
So that summer they did Hatching, Matching, and Dispatching, and then right after that, as soon as it wrapped, everyone moved on to a movie that Paul Pope was doing called Heyday. And I had just started on Hatching, Matching. I didn't know anyone. I was green as grass, and I remember we were shooting down Torbay, and the last night it was an all-nighter, and it was pouring rain. We were shooting this graveyard scene on the side of a cliff. And of course, those locations departments, if anyone's worked in locations, you're doing all the fun jobs
Shout out to locations.
oh, locations. We love locations.
We love locations.
Carrying plywood up and down muddy hills to make sure that, camera carts and all kinds of other things don't get stuck in the mud and all that fun. So we wrapped at about 4:30 in the morning, I think, and got home, got in bed, got a shower, got in bed, and about an hour and a half later, my phone started ringing, and I kind of was like, I'm not answering that. It's like I need more sleep. And it kept ringing. They call back, call back, call back. And finally I was like, okay. So I picked it up. And it was a production manager from this show, Heyday. And he was like, we need you to be the location manager. And I was like, excuse me? um, I was just a PA. I've never been on set before. I don't
So
think
you
I
were
could
a
be.
PA on the
Yeah, I was
island,
a
yeah.
PA. I was a set PA. And they basically were like, no, we'd like you to be the location manager. And I was like, I don't think I can do that, but sure, I'll come by. And they were like pretty much, and through the jigs and reels, I found out that the Abby Fettigreen was the production manager, but the call came directly from Paul Pope, who I kind of grew up. I've known Paul since I was about that high. I've known Paul. That's my first memories of Paul. I'm sure Paul maybe would have remembered me from earlier. But he was a very dear friend with my uncle. And so I kind of went in and had this interview with Abby, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And Paul kind of walked by, and the classic Paul, he was like, yeah, she can do it. She won't fuck it up. And I was
We
like,
can swear.
yeah. And I was like, okay. If you knew Paul Pope, that's a classic Paul Pope line. It's either you won't fuck it up or don't fuck it up. Those are the two lines basically of encouragement you got. So yeah, so that's basically kind of how I got my start. So I kind of went off that series. I rolled off of Heyday, and then that fall they were shooting Young Trivia's Made Away With, which was written, directed by Mary Welch, starring Martha Bernard. It was a great movie, very very funny. And so then I went off and did that one. But then back then, as things go in Newfoundland, that was a very, very busy summer. And then the next summer was not so busy.
Right.
It was kind of a dry year. There wasn't a whole lot. There was a small miniseries called Rabbit Town, Adriana Maggs and Sherry White wrote. And that was pretty much the only thing that really shot that summer. And it kind of slowed down. Back then, we were very we were very tied to grants and that type of thing. So when governments change, that kind of ebbed and flowed the kind of amount of production that we got on the island. So during that time, I basically after that I went out to Vancouver. I decided I was going to go back to film school and kind of upskill my skills, and the intention was to go out and be a producer. Mary wrote me a letter kind of saying like, yeah, come on out and be a producer and all that kind of stuff. And that was my intention when I got to school. And then when I went in and I kind of started classes, and I remember I did my very first cinematography class. And this amazing man, Ricky Choi, who still works on set, I believe, as a DIT, he basically said to me, he was like, no, it's like painting with light. And he said, that's what it is. You're painting with light. You're creating 3D dimensions with light. And I was like, huh, that's so beautiful. And then that was it. So that kind of sparked my interest in cinematography. And then from there, yeah, I
You
worked in
started your camera career.
Yeah.
Before, like now, I always thought you were in camera from the very, very start.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's great to know. Like that you
No,
start,
I
like,
mean, I started in locations.
everyone like I talk to start in locations.
Such a good lesson for people trying to get into the industry.
Please do that. It's not an easy job.
Nope.
It's not an easy job. No.
It's not an easy job at all. Locations is like, they're always like the unsung heroes on set. And I just find that, especially here in Newfoundland, in other districts and areas, it might not be quite so easy, but I find here in Newfoundland, it's a department you can move up in quickly if you start understanding what people's needs are. And that's really what locations is that you're kind of maintaining, you're maintaining the location that you're shooting at, but you're also understanding the needs of all the departments and making sure that all the other departments have what they need for the day kind of thing. You're assisting the assistant director's department as well. So it really gives you a great opportunity to kind of see what everyone does on set.
And to communicate with others as well.
Yeah. Right. So if you have aspirations of, working in the production office and eventually becoming a production manager, then working your way up to location managing is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
But it's also a really great way to get on set, see what other departments are doing, and kind of discover like, hey, I might be really interested in that.
Right. There are like so many things you can do on set, but location just, Yeah, it gives you like an overview of everything.
Yeah.
Like, hey, okay, hair needs something, makeup needs something, camera needs something. So they all go and take it, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's all there for them.
And it makes you like, you realize too, as like a locations PA, it's like that. It's like, here's like, I need something, I need power, I need to be set up here, I need to be able to plug my curling iron in and do touch-ups. And as a locations person, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can take care of that. I'll go find electric, I'll make sure we get the power and blah blah blah. But it makes you realize, if you want to get into producing, the needs of each department.
Hmm.
So you'll think about those things and make sure that you have them covered when you get into producing. So it's pretty
Right.
cool.
So I want to talk a little bit about your experience in Vancouver and in the Vancouver Film School that you went to, right?
Yeah.
So how was it? Like, how is Vancouver, like British Columbia, different from Newfoundland?
And there's a small piece of my heart I left in Vancouver, I'm not gonna lie. Vancouver's such a beautiful, beautiful place, and if you've never been, you get the opportunity to go. I tell everyone you should go. It's absolutely incredible. It's
It,
stunningly beautiful.
it's on my list.
Yeah, I mean, I lived there for 15 years, and there wasn't a day that I didn't stop at one moment and go, "Wow, it's beautiful here." Like, there was one view, this one road that I used to cover, that came in like a peak, and you'd see the mountains kinda behind the city, and every single time I got to the top of that hill, I'd stop and go, "Wow, this place is stunning."
Okay.
You never get sick of it. But yeah, so the industry in Vancouver is very different than here. So basically, yeah, I went out to school, I went to Vancouver Film School, um, somewhat of a different program, than we have here, some similarities, some difference. I did the, film production program is what it was
Hmm.
called then. So similar to the programs we do here at the Paul L. Pope Center, but it's, structured differently in that you kind of get a little bit of general knowledge about everything, which was great, really helps spark your interest. You learn to write a little, direct a little, act a little, you do a little bit of everything. Um, and then, yeah, from there, basically, upon graduation, um, again, I got out and I started working in locations again. And I'd been on set, and I'd been working on a TV series called Psych. It's an American television series, a comedy show. James Roday wrote and starred in it. Um, so basically, I worked on that series, and I'd been working on it like most of the summer kind of thing when I first kind of graduated from
Right.
school. And I remember thinking, God, I came out here to kind of do something else, like to advance my career, and I'm back in locate. I'm back. I'm not even the set PA. I'm like a day call PA. Like, and it's just because the industry is so much bigger there.
It's not like here in Newfoundland, like you know somebody and that somebody knows someone else, and you can just like escalate your way up.
Yeah,
Here
exactly.
it's
Yeah, and the other thing too is there's just the productions are so much bigger. So there's so many productions. They're bigger productions. So like, here you probably have 3 or 4 PAs on your crew, whereas out there you probably have like 15 PAs on a crew. So yeah, so I kind of felt like I was like, oh, I'm kind of back doing this again. This isn't really what I wanted to do. um and I remember I was in a shuttle van one day, and I went home from work, and I was Googling jobs, and there was like a job for painting houses. And it was like, at the time, the rates are different now, but at the time, my rate, like the rate, whatever I was getting, it was like they were offering to paint houses for like $25 an hour. And I was like, that's better money. And I'm outside, and I was like, I can do that. So I was going to, got out of Crew Park, hopped in the shuttle, and we were heading to breakfast. And I got in the car, and I was letting people in locations department know, like, yeah, no, it's probably going to be my last day. I'm going to take this job on Saturday, painting houses. I'm kind of, I'm done. So I got in the shuttle van, and just happened to be a bunch of camera guys were in the shuttle van with me. And the camera second, Garth turned around and looked at me, and he was like, what are you quitting the business, are you? And I was like, yeah, I said, I'm done. I'm going to get a job painting houses. He goes, well, why did you get on set anyway? Why'd you get into this racket? And I just said to him, I said, because I went to film school, and I said, I one time looked through a prime lens and thought, I could probably do this for the rest of my life. And I said, but here I am with a butt sweep and a locations vest. Doesn't quite feel the
oh
passion.
shit.
So that was kind of it. And then we got out of the shuttle, we had breakfast and everything. We went to set, and sure enough, I had my vest on and my butt sweep, and I was by a crafty tent, and I was sweeping up stuff and just kind of like whatever. And same guy, Garth, came over, and he said, "Hey," and of course, I was, when you're a Newfoundlander in British Columbia, there's not many other Newfoundlanders. Not many of us make it all the way to the West Coast.
Right.
So my nickname was Noof. So like, hey, Noof. And I said, yeah. And they said, you want to work in the camera department today? And I said, what? And they said, our trainee called in sick. You want to work with us for the day? And I whipped the vest off and I dropped the thing. And he's like, I think you got to ask your boss. And I said, oh, yeah, no, I will for sure. So I went over to the ALM. This is the part of the story where I'd like to encourage my students to not listen.
Close your ears.
Close your ears. This is not advice. This is just what happened in my particular story. So I walked up to the ALM and I said, yeah, I called someone in to replace me. I'm going to go work with camera today. And they said, well, you need someone to replace you. And I said, yeah, he's on the way. And I left and I went straight to the camera truck.
That is so like,
I know, terrible. You have to remember though, they are bigger markets and they have bigger crews.
Yeah.
So like if you have a dozen PAs, having 11, was it really
like
that big
10,
a deal?
like this, yeah. It's not like here you have to and then you can leave it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's so
So I did all the things I tell all the students to never, ever, ever do.
You mentioned that you were the only Newfoundlander
Mhm.
on the West Coast. So how was it? How were you treated? Because
Very well. Yeah. I mean, I think there's like, there's a double thing there. I think being a girl in the camera truck is very different. And yeah, just being from a different culture. I don't, there wasn't ever any negative kind of energy put around it. It was always more questioning. People like, oh, what's it like where you're from? And what's it like making movies out there? And a lot of people had been here. A lot of people I'd worked with had come here and done commercial work and different things. A lot of different people. In fact, one of my bosses that I worked with for a long time, a director of photography, Steve Jackson, he was kind of interviewed for a TV series here and had called me in the middle of the winter. Was like, I just did an interview for a TV series in Newfoundland. And I said, oh, cool. And he goes, so if I get it, we're going. And I was like, we? And he goes, oh yeah, I can't go there without you. I was like, okay. But they ended up not taking the job. Ended up going with Once Upon a Time instead. So which kept me in Vancouver for many years. Yeah, so it was great. I mean, like I said, working in the camera truck as a girl is very different. It's a
such
very male
dominated.
dominated. But that certainly is changing. I think there's a lot more girls kind of coming up through. And as much as the film industry is, we like to kind of think that we're cutting edge and that we're, we're on the forefront of everything and, we're getting all the newest and latest things. And it's like, that is very true for technology. But when it comes to, say, social events that other, industries have made, the film industry is very antiquated. Like we're still fighting for female directors.
Oh yeah.
We're still that's
female
insanity.
producers, directors.
And if you have one female, you can't have two female producers. You can only have one. You can't have, you know what I mean? And it's like female producers aren't as inclined to hire female directors because it's frowned upon. Like it's just a crazy that it's 2026 and we're still fighting for equality for female directors.
Yeah.
Or
I jump into you moving back to Newfoundland. What was your favorite part of being camera assistant? What is the kind of most vivid memory you have or, something that you still cherish from your times in Vancouver?
I think my favorite thing, what drew me to the camera department, because like I said, when I went to film school, I was very into cinematography. So, cinematography covers camera grip and lighting. So, and I was taught in film school, and I still believe this to kind of be true, is that there's two avenues to becoming a director of photography. You either come through the camera department or you come through the lighting department. And they say that the best directors of photography come through the lighting department. So I kind of thought about if I really wanted to be a good DP, I should go through the lighting. But when I got on set in locations, watching what everyone was doing, I kind of realized the camera department works every single shot. Every single shot. So the lighting department, yes, we get up, you light a scene, it's lit. You know what I mean? You probably do some tweaking as the camera angles change and all that kind of thing. But, once your scene's lit, you're kind of, got some downtime before the next one. And that appeals to a lot of people, and I get that. For me, and back then, the hours, we didn't have the studio caps that we have now. So the thought of being on set for 20 hours and sitting on an Apple box for 10 of those hours was just not appealing. So as I started watching, I realized like the camera department works every single shot. Every single shot. So, you're moving the camera, you're getting ready, you're prepping, you're setting, you're rehearsing, shoot, move on, next shot. So the days go quite fast. So
Right.
that first time that I went in as a camera trainee, 14 hours was gone. Like, it was like, start of the day, all of a sudden it was pitch black, it was night. It was like, oh my gosh, the whole day went by. Like, I can't believe that you're just busy, busy, busy. And then I looked at the rate sheets. And I was like, what do you know? They also get paid the most. So I was like, this is the department for me. If you know me, I love money.
Oh, who doesn't? Like, I love money. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I love money.
and we're, spending money on jewelry and clothes.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, every weekend I went shopping. It was
Yeah.
incredible. So yeah, it's one of the highest paid below the line departments that you can get. So that was kind of another motivating
Yeah.
factor on why I wanted to go into camera. Yeah.
So when did the studio start imposing the more regulated hours?
So I did a series. Sorry, Supernatural, if anyone on Supernatural hears about this. I worked on a series, Supernatural, and the first 4 years, I worked on season 4, basically for not the entire season, because I went in as the camera trainee, but then through the jigs and the reels, there was a whole bunch of things happened where their next trainee got sick, so I stayed on for another rotation, and then there was only one rotation left, and the department went to the union and basically was like, look, this is a really hard show, and we don't want to train anyone else. We're just going to keep the trainee. And those guys were lovely, the nicest, the most amazing camera crew. But I have to say, on that day, I went in and was like, oh my God, it's my last day, thank God. Because we were doing like 21-hour camera days. And I was like, it's over. And they're like, good news, we're keeping you for the next 5 weeks. I was like, you're what? I just wanted to go home and nap. But yeah, you would work. So we would literally start, like, say, your call Monday morning, 6 a.m. And you would, by Friday, your call would be 7:30, 8 o'clock p.m. And then you'd work
Crazy.
until like Saturday afternoon, basically. You get off and go home. So like, it was insane.
It's intense.
Yeah.
And like, it's
Yeah.
unhumanly.
It is
It really is unhumanly.
Yeah, it is. It is. And then I think so for us, I think it happened when Kip went off the road. So there was a TV series, Riverview, and the star of the show drove off the road one night. They were doing long, long hours. He got into a car accident. Luckily, not too many serious injuries, but he did spend a little bit of time in the hospital. And after that, he was a big force in cutting down the hours, and that was the first catalyst of like studios capping. So there was a cap at 14 hours. And I remember people still think they're like, wow, 14 hours, like that's not, and it's like at the time it was like, oh my God, 14 hours, we can do that standing on our heads. But like, you know what I mean? Really, that's still
Like 17 hours or something.
yeah, like you're thinking about locations department, like you're in for an hour and a half ahead and behind, like
Right.
you're still doing a 16, 17-hour day easy,
As an ex-student of the school, as soon as I stepped into the school, like I would really do want to point out the school starts taking care of you the moment you enter the classroom. And I remember all of the talks you were giving us, like about the safety driving, the long hours. It's really important to like bring it out,
Yeah.
like, and make sure that everyone knows their
Yeah.
rights and what they're entitled to.
Yeah, totally. You have to be like, I mean, shout out to the assistant directors. They are the advocates for keeping everyone safe on set. They, you know what I mean? They are the producers' representatives. So
Yeah.
they're the ones making sure everyone's safe, dictating turnaround times and all that kind of stuff. But in the end, you are the only person in charge of your own safety. And
Yeah.
that's one of the big things we do try to teach at the school is that, you're the person who has to be in charge of your own safety. So make sure you're safe. Pull over. no matter how tired you are and how, oh, it's been a long day, you're better off pulling over and sleeping in your car for 20 minutes than you are to just continue driving. So,
Going back to your Vancouver time,
yeah.
so you spent there 15
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
what made you go back to Newfoundland?
COVID. Basically. Well, I kind of, not so much COVID. I had actually kind of made the plan just before COVID struck. So, um, like I said, I was working on set for many, many years. Loved it. Um, worked my way up through the camera department, started as a camera trainee, then a camera second, focus puller, first assistant focus puller. And then basically had my daughter, and once I had my daughter, I was kind of looking to not be on set anymore, not to
Mhm.
kind of pull back kind of thing. So I actually went back to VFS and was teaching at VFS, teaching the cinematography department there. And I was doing that for a while, and it was great. My parents were here in Newfoundland, and they're getting older, and they were traveling, taking, 12-hour flights to come see their new grandchild. Um, and it was a lot on them. Like, it was a
Yeah.
lot, them traveling,
Uh,
me traveling all the time, trying to bring her back. And, you just start getting, as you get older, well, as you get older, also when you become a parent, you really start understanding the role of a parent, the role of a grandparent, and how much value there is to that. And, you only get so much time in life. And so I really wanted my daughter to kind of spend time with her grandparents, like quality time with her
yeah.
grandparents. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to move back home. And so I moved back to Newfoundland, February 1st, 2020.
Oh,
And then like 3 weeks
just
later, COVID hit.
my God, the
Yeah.
darkest times.
Oh my gosh, the darkest. And then I was kind of like, I kind of went through a whole phase of like, what have I done? Like, I've moved back here. I have no possibilities for work. Film industry is completely shut down. Like,
Not
what are
just
we
in
gonna do?
Newfoundland, like across
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah, everywhere. Everything had shut down, you know what I mean? And there was no talk. They were trying to figure out how film was going to come back. Um, and of course, once again, Paul Pope he starts shooting before anyone else ever in Canada. He was the first show, Republic of Doyle, I think, was it? Or no,
No,
it
no,
was
no. Oh,
Hudson and Rex.
that's in
Yes,
Rex.
Hudson Rex. Rex was the very first show to start shooting in Canada. So yeah, that was really cool that Newfoundland was one of the first shows that
Yeah.
were up and running.
We're like the first ones to see the sun in the North American, then we're first ones to get back into film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And I mean, that was a huge learning curve, like COVID protocols and all that kind of stuff. And I remember I had uh I joined a meeting because at the time I came back and I was working at Atlantic Studios Cooperative,
Mhm.
the rental house here. And so I was working there and I was helping doing some invoicing and things. And there was this Zoom call that we were all going to participate in. And it was about, greenifying like the
Mhm.
industry and all that kind of thing. And Paul was on the call and he was like, do you know how much PPE is going in dumpsters right now? And it was like, this is not the time to be talking about greening up film. And it was like, okay. But, we're getting over that now and stuff, we're learning and hopefully no more COVID,
Please.
no more massive global shutdown pandemics. So yeah, so then during that time, basically, there was a meeting that Paul was also pushing at the same time for school to open.
Mhm.
He was a visionary in understanding what the island needed to grow the industry. So, it's not that we didn't have talent. There's lots of talent here. It's not that we don't have beautiful locations. There's tons of gorgeous.
Just go around Newfoundland, like you will lose your mind how beautiful it is.
Yeah, like, and, Paul's vision is like, why are you going to villages in Ireland when you can come here and shoot
Yeah.
that? Why are you going all the way to New Zealand to find these cliffs when we have that here as well? So he was a visionary in that way and trying to really showcase the island. The one thing that we did not have, like you said, we have lots of talent and stuff. We didn't have enough crew. So that first year that I got into film, basically, I was explaining, and that's kind of how film has worked here, is that if we had 3 or 4 producers on the island who all got greenlit for a series, like,
They will
unlike
all need crew.
they all need crew, and like other markets, you kind of like, you're very much in competition with everyone else. And not that there's not competition amongst producers here, of course there is. But what's different here is they had to come together and realize, like, okay, Like, when is your deliverables? When are your deliverables? Like, okay, let's make this work for everyone because we're all need crew and we only have one crew here to kind of shift from, from set to set kind of thing as necessary. So yeah. So Paul saw that obviously and was a big push for wanting to have a film school. So he went to CNA, College of North Atlantic, which is the big provincially supported technical college here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And yeah, he went to them and kind of pushed, kept pushing in and knocking on doors and making phone calls and be like, this industry needs to grow. This is what we need. This is what we need. So he kind of got the ball rolling with that.
So the first film programs have started operating in 2022, right? And then the official school opening was in 2024.
Oh, the campus. Yeah.
The
So
campus.
the program started running. So it was very quick. So as you can imagine, COVID happened. The very first meeting that I went to, again, I was working at Atlantic Studios Cooperative. And Thomas, the manager there, basically kind of said one day, he was like, I think he had a cold or something. He was like, I can't go to this meeting. Will you go down? He said, they want someone from the co-op to go down and represent for this meeting. And I said, what is it? And he said, I don't know. He's like, something to do with CNA. I was like, okay. I was kind of going down thinking like, oh, there's breakfast included. This will be great. And I remember I went into the hotel and I went in and there was this massive ballroom set up and they had this huge U shape of tables and there was about 35 people kind of all sat around. And I went in and I sat down to this really nice lady and she was like, hi, I work with CNA. And I said, okay, hi, how, nice to meet you. And so what's your name? She's like, hi, I'm Davida. I was like, oh, hi, Davida. Nice to meet you. And sat down and we kind of had a couple of chuckles and stuff, complained about the bacon not being cooked enough or something. And then a few minutes later, discovered that she was actually the dean of the programs. And yeah, and they were, they were talking about starting a film school. And I was like, oh, I had no idea. And so kind of everyone went around, each person kind of stood up and introduced themselves and what they did and who they were there to represent. So I was like, hi, my name is Allison Short and I'm here to represent Atlantic Studios Cooperative, which everyone here, is aware is the rental house here on the island. But also, since I'm standing here, I have this opportunity. I'm going to let you know that I actually just moved back from Vancouver. I spent 15 years in the camera department there. And I also taught at Vancouver Film School. And everyone was like, you taught at Vancouver Film? I was like, yes, I did. And then I remember I sat back down to Vita was like, oh, we didn't know you taught at a film school. That's awesome. We should talk to you. So I kind of, from there, I had a couple of meetings and stuff, and then kind of the ball started rolling. And yeah, next thing you know, it was like a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, I was at the big campus at PPD, and we started writing courses and talking about the structure and how the school was going to work. And, we really started designing. And Paul, of course, was trying to get Hudson and Rex shooting and up and going, and then trying to get the school started and stuff. So it was a very busy time. Yeah.
So have you started, like, once you came on board to the school, did you start as a program coordinator, like, at first, or did you have a different role? Like,
I went through several roles. So when I first started, I can't remember what my job title was. I think when I very first started, I started doing curriculum development. So we kind of went in, there were some core people from the industry, and Leslie Grant, who was an amazing creative producer, Christopher Richardson is documentarian. At the time, Dorian Rowe used to be the film commissioner with, back then it was the Newfoundland and Labrador Film Commission.
that was Picture NL.
Yeah, and now known as Picture NL. And so there's a bunch of us in the room. We kind of just started, spitballing ideas and, and then also working with the college because, obviously they're experts in education. So managing how a program needs to be structured, how many courses need to be in a term, blah, 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 about introductories. And so, yeah, we just kind of started developing courses. And then from there, Paul moved me into a position kind of equipment procure. So I ordered all of the equipment, all this stuff you kind of see around here. Ordered all the equipment and stuff. And then from there, it was like, because it was each phase as things were progressing and necessary. Right. So, we started developing the program. Then we started developing the individual courses. And then I wrote all the camera courses from my time being in the camera department. And of course, with other people, Jay Hamal, who's the president of IATSE 671, a longtime camera system, was a huge help with that. been local camera assistant, had done a lot of legwork and stuff too. So wasn't just me. There was a lot of local people also who did a lot of work
Helped
to kind of
the
yeah
shape.
to get it
Yeah.
going. And yeah, and then from there it was then we needed teachers, and then kind of rolled into a teaching position, and then yeah, as things progressed, I kind of now I'm the instructional coordinator.
Right. When you first moved back, have you imagined that you will be back to your educator career here
No.
after VFS?
No, I mean, I kind of, when I worked at VFS, I really discovered a passion for teaching that I
Hmm.
didn't know I had. Um, you know, I mean, I kind of say I didn't know I had. However, I was a big, I was a bit, one of the, I helped out a lot with the IATSE 669, which is the camera local out there, the
Hmm.
camera trainee program. So I have to say, even in all my time on set, I really enjoyed training new people. I always have this thing, it's like, if I could tell you every mistake that I made so you won't make those mistakes, you'll have a better time than I did. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like always been my mantra
Yeah.
for like training people and bringing people up is that tell them everything, all of your experiences, everything that you learned so that they won't have as hard as a time. So yeah, so that's kind of what led me to, I guess discovering that I enjoyed teaching. And then, when I started at VFS, I really, really enjoyed it. Um, my role there was kind of the structure of that school is a little different.
Hmm.
So they kind of break things up in like shooting progression. So my job was to do the location shooting. So like I took them out of the school and we go out in the streets of Vancouver and shoot in the alleyways, and which is really interesting because you have to, check for needles and all that kind of stuff before you start shooting there. So it was a different experience, but yeah. So I discovered my love of teaching through that. So yeah, this
And
all kind of progressed naturally.
a lot of people don't actually know what the job of the instructional coordinator is. Like,
Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes.
what are
Oh my gosh.
your kind of day-to-day responsibilities, and what are some things that no one can see, like what you're
Well,
doing?
one of the things that people like the title itself, instructional coordinator,
Mhm.
means, you know what I mean? It kind of would give the impression, and it is part of the job, is you're talking with faculty and courses and making sure that the curriculum is aligned with the goals and objectives of the courses and that you're making sure that the instructors are supported and all of that, which is
Mhm.
definitely part of my job. And we do that several times throughout a year. We sit down and review courses. In fact, the college is like, will you guys stop? We're constantly updating our courses, constantly adding new things and trying different stuff. But um the biggest part of my job, I would say, is most people say, what do you do at this college? And I say, I'm kind of like the principal because I feel like most of my days, not most of my day, but a lot of my time is spent with students.
Mhm.
I'm the de facto go-to. And it's on me. I created this. Uh, I tell all the students, if you have an issue, come see me. If you have a question, come see me. If you have a problem, come see me. If you're worried about you can't pass your course, you're worried about an exam coming, come see me. If you're worried, you're stressed out because, maybe it's your first time not living with your family and you're, far away, come see me. I read scripts sometimes. I advise people on equipment. I'll advise people on many, many different things, like
Yeah.
depending on what's necessary. So yeah, do that. Then there's, oh my gosh, there's that side of it. Then there's also like the industry itself. One of the other things that kind of separates our school from other schools is how closely we are tied to the industry here.
Right.
So, I mean, the building's a buzz all the time with people, producers walking through the doors, that kind of thing. I often joke and say we're the third union. So when the halls are empty, as we say, like everybody's out working and it's busy, the producers and PMs are calling me saying, hey, any chance you get a student who can come out and help on set today? And we love that. Those are my favorite moments in the day is when I get a producer call and say, hey, can I take a student out? I'm like, yes. Because we often say, tell everyone from the beginning, if you get the chance to go out on set, do it. Classroom, yes, we're going to teach you lots of things. The most you're going to learn is when you're out on set doing the job. So
I
that
mean,
always supersedes class.
the fact that school gives you, this opportunity to kind of work, study
Yeah.
balance is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things we're really proud of with our school. It separates us kind of from other film schools. We recently had students out on a movie that we MOW, called The Marshal.
Mhm.
And one of the producers on that was kind of traveling up from LA and had spoken with um, this particular movie, we had several students go out in the grip electric department. The instructor took them out on set, so they got to work every day for like a couple of weeks. And the producer came up and spoke to Ian McDonald, he's key grip and also one of the instructors
Mhm.
here, and spoke to him and kind of said like, "Hey, what are your these are film school students?" And he's like, "Yeah, they're grip electric students." And he said, "What what do you mean they're grip electric students?" And he was like, "I teach them grip electric." And he was like, "Oh yeah, so they do a course with you?" He goes, "No, they're with me all winter." So I think what we've designed here with our school is very different from what most film schools do. Even my time at VFS was very similar to what all other film schools do, where you kind of get a little bit of taste of everything in the industry.
Mhm.
You learn a little bit about producing, you learn a little bit about writing, a little bit about acting, a little bit about directing, a little bit about editing. Whereas here, what we've designed here is very nuanced programming. So the concept is that we're going to give you the skills to get out on set and get a job. So yes, you come in the fall. It's a 1-year program. You come in the fall and you're going to do kind of general studies,
Mhm.
introductory courses. But say in our technical program in particular, those students kind of towards the end of the fall semester pick a pathway, as we call it. So you can go and concentrate your studies in camera, or you're going to concentrate your studies in the art department, or sound, or grip electric. So instead of just getting a touch on each of these things, you're going to spend 4 months studying just that, just that department. You're learning just that skill set. And then in our spring semester, all of the programs come together and we shoot 2 short films, which are fully produced by the students. Um, most of the actors are the students, the directors are the students, the writers, everything kind of, it's a full student productions. And then after that, we do get people out on set and do a work term or work integrated learning and stuff, which that is the big part that we're really, really proud of, because it pairs a student with a mentor or someone actually working on set for 3 to 5 weeks sometimes on set. And that's when students really get to learn their job. And you're getting to meet people, right?
I can remember the times when I was in school, like, yeah, as you said, like in the first semester, we did some like, general courses like film history, etc. And then as soon as the winter hit, I did the production management course, right?
Yeah.
So like we just started doing scheduling, the operational production management, like everything related to the production management. So that's where you actually, you get into the profession. And then we did our end of year films. Everyone came together with great ideas, and yeah, it
Yeah.
was so much fun.
Yeah, and I mean, we try to do that with all of our programs too, even like, so yeah, so the production manager, we're newly going to be called producing coming
Mm.
this year. Change
There's
it.
more coming.
There's more
There's more
coming.
coming.
So yeah, the producing program, the technical one, which I just spoke of, but then we also have our post-production, and the same thing, those guys, you're doing your introductory courses in the fall, and then you're really concentrating on picture editing or sound design, sound editing, that kind of thing. So when those students get to the third semester as well,
Mm.
they select roles in areas that they really want to concentrate in. Like, no, I really want to be an audio mixer, or I really want to be a dialogue editor, or whatever the roles are. I want to be a picture editor. I want to be a colorist. I want to color the film. So it's really exciting to see people like we're getting ready now, starting in 3 days, I think is our first shoot day for our end of year projects this year. And just seeing people being excited. I passed a student in the hallway the other day, and one of our post students, and he's like, "I'm so excited to color the film. Like, I've got so many ideas, and it's going to be, it's set in 1983, and I've got all these tones up there." I
Mhm.
was like, "That's amazing!" Like, I just love how excited you are that to get to do it. So we're very excited. Yeah.
Oh, I miss school so much. It's like always gonna be part of me.
The doors are always open to
Yeah.
our graduates.
Yeah.
We say once you're part of our family, you're here forever.
Yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean? So you're always welcome to come back here. So
I cherish all of my school moments so
yay.
much. Like there's have been like so many.
We love that. We love
Yeah.
creating a great environment.
When the students come in, like obviously they have the expectations of what's going to happen during the year. What are the biggest misconceptions that students have about film industry and about film school?
Uh how
Yes.
busy it is, um, how hectic it is, and the importance of communication. I think the biggest one is the importance of communication. Um, I think, and if you're not in the industry, I think the concept of like, no, we always reply every, you have to constantly be in communication. There's a lot of updating. One thing change, you lose a location, which, in other industries might like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll just go shoot here or something. The trickle down effect of every department that affects, making sure that everybody understands, that kind of thing for sure. Um, and the collaboration, I think that's the other thing that people don't really get is that
Mhm.
there's a lot of collaboration. Yes, there's one director on set. Yes, there's one, person that kind of is somewhat the decision maker, but that's when you get to set and you're actually shooting. Before that, all of the prep that leads up to it, all that is so collaborative. It's why, production designers, location managers, all these people that are brought in right from the beginning, from the first read of a script with the producer. Lots of times, a production accountant gets hired before anyone
Yep.
to break down and budget a film, right? Most people don't know that. It's like the very first person that gets hired by a producer is the production accountant. They have to sit down with
Yep.
the producer, break down
Go
the
down.
script, and
Yeah.
make the budget so that then the producer can go get funding. Once funding is secured, great. Then we can start bringing in other people, right? But so yeah, I think people don't realize how much prep work goes in. You know what I mean? When you get to set and shooting, you're like, it kind of feels like it just kind of naturally happens, but
Mhm.
it doesn't. There's a lot of prep work that goes into it. So, and like the other thing too is we talk about the hours and stuff like, and no matter where you are, I mean, you work in accounting department,
Yeah.
the days are long.
The days
You're
are
around
long.
those people all day long.
Yeah.
So, and as you can imagine, a lot of times if you're a shooting crew, you're working out of a truck or a trailer or something small, you're in a very confined space with multiple people for 14 hours a day. It's a long
It's a
time.
lot.
People become your family.
Yeah,
They are. They become your family because you don't get to see your real family. And
that's
so you're with
true.
these people all the time, so it's really important. Um, the I got another Paul Pope quote. My young listeners, mind your ears. He used to say, FIFO, fit in or fuck off. And it's true. You have to kind of fit in or fuck off. Like, you're around these people for 14 hours a day. You have to acclimate to other people's personalities. You have to have that ability to kind of blend in. You know what I mean? You have to have
Yeah.
some sort of a natural camouflage to you so that you can kind of adapt to environments because you can work on one show and work with one crew, and this is how we do it, and this is how things are done. Then you move on to another show, and then the
Completely
attitude
different.
completely different.
Completely
Different
different.
personalities, different ways of doing things, and that's it. You have to be a bit of a chameleon and kind of like, okay, and this is what we're doing on this series, and this is, and find ways to communicate with people. I tell all the camera students before they go into it, like a camera truck, you go in as a camera trainee, I always like remind them like, okay, and camera's different than most departments. They have a little more attitude,
Oops.
a little bit. I try to negate that a bit. I've always been a big person for trying to shut that stuff down. But I always tell the students when you go to a camera department, like, number one, no one cares about your opinion at all. And in fact, I tell all the students that when we go out and we get to the point we're actually shooting on set, like, nobody cares about your opinion at this point. It's not wanted, nor is it needed. When you get to actually shooting, you just keep the machine going no matter what, right? So, and especially, like I say, the camera trainees that go in, no one cares about your opinion. No one really cares about your interest to start, that kind of thing. You just kind of go in quietly, prove that you do the job and do it well. And then eventually, within a few days, they'll
You'll
start
get
warming up to
yeah.
you, right? But I always say, like, if you go into a camera truck and you're like, did you watch the hockey game last night? And no one replies, don't bring up hockey again. Like, like maybe they don't watch hockey. You know what I mean? Maybe they're football people or something. But like, and if they're football people, guess what? You like football now too.
You have no choice.
You have no
You
choice.
have
Just
no
learn about
choice.
it. Like, but yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's like you do need you need to be a bit of a chameleon to work in set because it's contractual work. I mean, television series now, like standard broadcast television, 22 episodes is not standard anymore. That used to be the standard where you do 22 episodes, so you'd be on a series for a long time.
Mhm.
Now, with the way, with streaming and the way things are going, lots of times you're doing shorter blocks. You know what I mean? And as production's going, people are trying to do, condense, condense, condense. So you'd be on a shoot for like 8, 9 weeks and then that's it. And then you're moving on to the next thing kind of thing. So there's a lot of ebbing and flowing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like here we're obviously Newfoundland has a much different industry, like in terms of the size than Ontario, anywhere in Canada does. So I feel like the blending in is also a little bit different.
Yeah,
Like you every year you would mostly likely to be working with the same people again.
depending. It depends. So a lot of times I find on the tech, and I know my personal experience on the technical side, it usually comes from the top. So once a DP, like for instance, I did a lot of ABC Disney series. And that's because the director of photography I worked with, Steve
Mhm.
Jackson, did a lot of ABC Disney series. And then from there, um, even when like Steve kind of parted ways and he went off and did Riverdale, producers came to me and said, "Would you stay?" And they said, like, I know a lot of the people are going with Steve to go to this new show. We'd like for you to stay to kind of have some consistency. Like, we're going into season 5 and we'd like to have some consistency kind of thing. So yeah, through a little bit of negotiating with them, I decided to just stay, and kind of part ways with him.
Mhm.
And then from there, because I was in with the producers, then as a focus puller, I was getting hired. I got hired a couple of times, um, sometimes before the DP. But that was just because, I'd worked with the producer and it was a very different. Disney owns their own equipment. They don't do a whole
Mhm.
lot of rental house stuff. So they wanted some consistency in the camera department in that
Right.
reason. Which can work, let me tell you, can work for you and against you. This portion will not have names.
No.
Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
DPs don't mind that. Sometimes DPs don't mind coming in and being like, "Oh, you already have one person on the crew hired." Sometimes they don't like that. They want to have say over everyone in their department.
Yeah.
So lots of times, yeah, you'll travel around with the same crew and go from show to show, that kind of thing. Or like in my case, it was a little bit different. I kind of parted ways from my
Mhm.
crew and kind of stuck with the producers for a while. And so I did, like I said, Once Upon a Time, and then I did Dead of Summer, and then I did, like, there was several series that they did, and
Mhm.
I just kind of stayed on with them. Yeah.
Obviously, there are a lot of new people coming into the industry, and I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of applications during summer for the new season of the school. What advice would you be giving to somebody who wants to build a career here in province?
Whew. Well, and I mean, not just here in the province, I guess
Well,
anyone in Canada,
in
really.
everywhere in Canada,
Yeah.
yeah.
My biggest thing is if you've never experienced what it's like on set, try to get out as a job as a PA. And if you can't get a job as a PA, find out who's hiring background and register to be a background actor. One of the best things you can do as background is you're also on set watching, just like PAing, you kind of can watch what everybody's doing and see how the day flows and kind of experience, life on set.
Mhm.
Because it can be it's a lot to navigate. It's, you understand the hours, you understand how fast things move, sometimes how slow things move.
It can also be the
It can
case.
also be very slow. You can be on set and the main light that's rigged into the grid on the ceiling goes down, and next thing you know, we gotta pull all the cameras out and bring a lift in and fit it, that's
Yeah.
45 minutes of everybody sitting around waiting to get back. So it can happen either way, right? So it's a good way to kind of see what life on set is. So yeah, if you can't get in as locations PA, always yeah, register for background. It's another great way to kind of see what's going on.
So as we are getting to the end now, um, and this is something that I want to ask every guest that I'll be having
Okay.
on the show. If you could go back, kind of, what advice would you give yourself for when you were starting your career?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, well, I think one of the big things is it's contractual work. And if you don't get the job, like you want to get a gig and you don't get it, it's not a deal breaker. It's not the end of the world. Um, Another shoot will come along, another show will come along, another team to work with will come along. So not to get to, I remember a few years ago, I was working on a television series called V, and it was, back then, it was very, very, big visual effects series. It was a very expensive show to
Mhm.
make. It was a sci-fi series and there was a lot of like green screen. And at the time we were using Zoic, which was a very, complicated live imagery system. This is before we had the volume and all that kind of stuff. And I was watching TV. I was home and we were off. It was hiatus and I was home and I was watching some morning show, and the announcement came on that the executive producers at ABC were axing all of their big budget shows and going to reality style television. And I was like, I think I just lost my job. And I remember at the time there was like a plumber working in my house. He was like, what? And I was like, I think I just lost my job. And he was like, I've never seen anyone watch TV and go, oh, I lost my job. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure like it was a high budget show I was on. There's no way. And sure enough, it didn't come back. But after that, you know what I mean? And I was really like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? And, you know, I was debating, should I come back to Newfoundland? Kind of checking and seeing. It was like at the time Republic of Doyle was starting up. I was like, maybe I could get on that.
Mm.
And then, you know, a series Once Upon a Time came along, and that was a 7-year series and ran forever and had spin-off series and all kinds of things. Ended up being a decade of work. So never get too down on losing one gig. There'll be another one right around the corner.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Oh my gosh,
coming
this was so
today.
fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is amazing.
It was Allison Short, and thank you so much. Well, I guess we'll see you episode 2 of our podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.